The years 2013 and 2014 were huge for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans. We had an ongoing TV show, there was a movie. I mean, it wasn't a good one, but it was a movie. But more importantly than any of that, we got a Lego theme. As you all know, my forte. This is one of those lines that I kind of grew up on a little bit. I had a few of the sets, not as many as I thought I did. This was just an era where my parents were just like, nope, you've got too much. We gotta stop letting you get any Lego sets, even if I worked for it, you know? Still thankful nonetheless, because I really do enjoy both these lines. Are they as good looking back now as they were, you know, as I was looking at them as a kid? No, but there's still some really good sets and some really great minifigs from this theme. So let's get right into it. In last place is set 79102, Stealth Shell in Pursuit. Now, while this set does have a pretty decent fig selection, the builds in this set to me are just honestly horrendous. The first fig to talk about in this set is the Raphael. Now, this Raphael's in one other set that we'll get to a little later, but I'm a huge fan of these cartoon designs of the turtles. We later on got the movie designs, which I think look kind of just atrocious in an uncanny valley type of way. These cartoon ones, in my opinion, are like the quintessential Lego turtles. The way they're molded, the color, the printing, it doesn't try to be too detailed. It tries to be cartoony, and I think it looks great. I love the mask mold on the head. I think it worked perfectly here. I think the torso and leg printing looks great, especially with that kind of combat, you know, leather put on the torso and the legs. And the shell backpack is probably the best way they could have made the shell for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially at the time. Moving on, we got Fish Face, who I think is an awesome fig. I really love the molded part they gave him. It's the perfect way to make him. I'm glad they didn't try to make him a minifig. It looks great, especially with its, you know, ability to use those droid arm parts. I think that looks awesome. I also love the dorsal fin. I think that's really cool that they added that little edge there to make it its own species. I think that looks awesome. The printing's cool, especially with the teeth, with this one really jagged one going up there. And the legs being at kind of this 90-degree angle gives off a really cool effect that can only be shown through his design through that cartoon. I think he looks really sick. And last, we have the foot soldier, who I think looks really cool. Now, these foot soldiers aren't too heavily detailed, especially with leg and arm printing, but I don't mind it here because the torso printing to me looks really sick. I like the little strap he has around the center and all the little folding to give kind of this D effect. I think looks really cool. Also, his head print looks awesome, whether it's the band around the top with the little centerpiece or the eyes that give off this kind of, you know, bug vibe with the little circle prints inside. I think it looks really cool. Honestly, all these designs look really accurate to the show itself, and I think they're great figs. Moving on to the builds, which I think are really weak. We got this little boat and this motorcycle. We're going to start out with the boat. Now, this boat build I think just looks kind of terrible in my opinion. It's super awkward being 6 long. I think it should be a 4-stud long build. It would look a lot better in my opinion because they used this part that they used for like the Bat Jet Ski in 2013 at the front, and it looks super weird on a really small build. It just doesn't fit the scale correctly. It also makes a lot of unnecessary and awkward studs show, which just does not look good. Not to mention the color mismatch we get all over this boat. We have a white modified 2x1 at the front, next to a dark gray modified 2x1 in the front, next to dark red arches in the front, and with some transparent green studs. It makes no sense. It's really awkward. It doesn't even look cool, to be honest. The pattern's super weird. Not to mention they're all on a black brick. It looks just kind of like a mishmash of nothing. It looks like tie-dye. I can agree, though, the backside does look a lot better, whether it's the area to hold the ooze canisters or the ooze canister shooter itself, which actually works pretty good. But the flick fire missiles here are super awkward. The way they're built in looks really weird. The fact that they had to elevate the build to put them in is just kind of suspicious, in my opinion. It doesn't really add to the build. It just looks weird. It's not a great looking build. And then there's this trike build, which I also think looks kind of terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the olive green for the wheel barriers looks cool, and I think some of the dynamic designing with raising the tiling can look pretty good if they tiled off the side maybe, or at least tried to. I think it looks kind of weird just with 2 plates on top of each other, not to mention the fact that this doesn't have not 2 but 4 flick fire missiles, and 2 of them are down at the bottom, which is super weird. I mean, if you want to, you can conflate them with like headlights, but I don't think that works. It's just such a weird hybrid build. I don't know if they could understand what they were going for here. It doesn't look right to me. It looks really fucking confusing, whether it's the thick part of the back going to the thin part of the front, or just being clunky in general. Not a fan. Up next on the ranking is set 79120, T-Rocket Sky Strike. I think the minifigs in this set are pretty good, but I'm really mixed on the builds. Now, there are 4 minifigs in this set to talk about. I think the Krang medium blue has some sick printing all over the front of his body and his legs. I think they look really nice, and his head print's also really cool with this intricate little line work they have here, and the Krang in the torso looks really sick. The Donatello here is an interesting design. I actually really like the torso. I think that puffy jacket looks super nice, especially with all the buttons on the front. I think it looks sick. I don't really like the glasses print, goggle print on the headpiece. I think it looks kind of weird in my opinion. It just doesn't look right on such a small eye slot already. Now, the Michelangelo in this set I think is really good. I mean, the light printing is legit awesome, the way it details up to the torso. I like the torso here a little less, mainly because I think it would look better with long sleeves. I know that's inaccurate, but you know, just work with me here. I think it just would look better. Now, ideally, you would have got the half sleeve back in this era, but for some reason it isn't here. I think it's because it's a smaller set and they're only producing that for really Bart from The Simpsons. I do think the detailing on him is pretty sick, though. Last, we got mutated Dr. O'Neill, which is a sick looking fig, whether it's the bright colored wings or the really eccentric detail on the top of the head with the ears. It looks incredible. The printing on the torso and legs also looks super nice, whether it's this fur or this kind of leakage in the front. Of course, you know, we got mutated from protecting his daughter. A good, you know, family man right here. Let's give our props to him. Single dad. We gotta stand up for the Americans. There are 3 builds to talk about in this set. The first build I'm gonna talk about is this glider, and it's just a piece of shit, to be honest. I mean, looking at it, it looks kind of like this hodgepodge creation. They didn't know what colors to pick from. They didn't know, you know, what techniques to use. It just looks super off. It's not tiled off really at all. Very basic. Obviously, this is literally a side build, like the side build, so it's not like matters insanely a lot to the set. However, I would have liked it to be better, you know. It would have been nice. I guess the handles are cool with those gun parts. That looks kind of sick, especially for back then when these were just introduced. Using that for this usage was awesome. The next build to talk about is this UFO build, which in my opinion is probably the best build of the set, to be honest, especially with the way it's built. Yeah, the rounded part being a little elevated looks weird, but it makes sense. The legs look cool on the bottom, in my opinion, with the way they're built. Is very basic, but it looks nice. Incorporating the flick fires into the legs is kind of a cool little detail. I think the weakest part of this build is how the windshield fits into the circular area itself. I wish they made it a little indented with the round tiles around it instead of just this kind of straight tiled where they kind of jut out. And the last build to talk about in the set is the actual T-Rocket itself. I'm not a fan of this build, to be honest. I think it looks really weird. It just doesn't seem congruent at all. And don't get me wrong, I get that's part of the charm of the TMNT, especially in this show where they use all this scrap to build like their vehicles. But here it just doesn't translate well in Lego, in my opinion. They use these long parts on the side to give it like this sort of weird long feeling where you could fit all 4 figs for like the TMNT, but it doesn't look right in my opinion. It looks super weird. I mean, the windshield in the front looks really cool. The back engine looks kind of bursting, and it just, I don't know, everything looks kind of off here. Don't get me wrong, the sticker detailing on the back looks really cool, but some of the brick usage I'm not a big fan of. Like this little jut out on the end I think looks kind of just okay. It's not my favorite. There's a random red brick under this black brick that just makes no sense at all, and the flick fire missiles feel super out of place. They just look super weird being jutted out here instead of actually naturally placed in the set. I'm just not a fan of this build. Up next on the ranking is set 79101, Shredder Dragon Bike. Honestly, this set is another really mixed bag in my opinion. There are 3 figs in the set, and I'm only going to talk about 2 of them because I've already talked about the Foot Soldier. I'm going to start out with the Donatello. This is a pretty good looking fig in my opinion. He of course has the basics that all these turtle figs have, whether it's the shell printing or the mask on the top, which actually looks really cool. I think the purple here pops off really nice off that green. And while really the only difference between him and the others is the little strap detailing in the middle with the ring and his little bow staff, I still think he's really cool. I think it's a great fig. I think all the figs in this style are great. The other fig in the set to talk about is the Shredder, who I think looks awesome in my opinion. I love all the metallic detailing and printing they have, including his helmet, which is a perfect encapsulation of the Samurai Shredder helmet in the show. It looks great. Not to mention the shoulder blades with that custom-made 2-blade on the top. Looks sick. He also has this almost Two-Face head going on, which is kind of a sick print in my opinion. I mean, the way that the skin changes color looks so nice and is very detailed. build. It really looks cool. Not to mention the white eye is just the perfect fit. I'm glad they didn't try to add a pupil here. The sachet belt printing towards the end of the torso also looks kind of cool in my opinion. I love the purple, the way it bounces off that dark red. Looks really nice in my opinion. And I think the dark red looks pretty good. I mean, I wish they would have gone with something darker, I guess, but they really can't, to be honest. What did Lego have on their palette back then that was this much darker, that wasn't like brown? It makes sense in my opinion. I think it's a really solid fig. We move on to our 2 builds, and we start out with Donatello's vehicle. Yeah. I look around a little bit. Apparently, this is his motorized skateboard. Interesting. It's kind of just whatever. It's like a nonsense side build, in my opinion. I mean, I know most Lego sets formula, especially if they have a hero and villain, is to have a build for the villain, a build for the hero. You know, whichever one's better, it doesn't really matter as long as they each have a build, so you could do that retrospective battle with each other where they go, ooh, right into each other. There really isn't anything to say about it. I mean, it's tiled off. That's cool. It has a cool little lever you can stand up on and just push down, you know, but that's about it. It's the most nothing build ever. Shredder's bike, however, I think is really cool. A lot of the little design things on here I think look nice. Whether it's the obvious, like the big and small wheel from front to back, which gives it this elevated feel, or it's the all-around spiky detailing to, of course, give it this Shredder vibe. Of course, he's spiky all around. I think the front looks really nice. The way that they made this kind of fangy dog thing up front, it looks nice with the fang and the eye, and it has some perspective on it because there's a bit of distance between the wheel and the fang itself, and the fact that it's in front. It just looks really nice. And when you move towards the middle of the bike, you get this big area for Shredder to sit in, which is such an interesting design detail because the scale just makes no sense, but it looks great in my opinion. It's kind of funny looking at Shredder sit in it, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. The guy's one for theatrics. Look at his layer, for God's sake. And then behind the seat, we have this kind of spiky piece right here, which looks cool in my opinion. It's obviously larger than most, so the scale looks really interesting on the build. It also has a nice, really thin end from that thick base, which makes it add a little bit of this danger element to it. And behind that's a tail piece with 4 cheese slopes and a tail, which looks cool. You know, I like the 4 cheese slopes, especially because the red pops off the black so well. There's obviously some cool other little details on here, whether it's the smokestack, which is built at a cool little angle with this technique, which looks kind of nice, or it's the saw blades on the end of the wheel, you know, giving off more of this danger vibe. It all just kind of looks pretty cool in my opinion. I like this build. Up next on the ranking is set 79105, Baxter's Robot Revenge. Now, personally, I have a qualm with one of the builds of the set, but otherwise than that, I think it's pretty solid. In fact, the fig selection here is really good. So obviously, skipping the Raphael, we go straight to the April O'Neil, who I think looks kind of weird, at least in the face.
What do you mean by that?
Don't take that the wrong way. She's a minor, bro. Chill out. Chill out. No, but Lego did something really weird with the proportions of, like, her face print. It looks really, really wide and off. I don't know. It feels super weird. If they moved her eyes out and her fucking eyebrows out, it would look super normal, but here it really doesn't. It's like they needed to space out the prints for everything to put this freckle print on the side instead of just kind of condensing it a little bit. It looks so weird. I think the torso has some really cool detailing, especially with the way the color changes. I think that looks really nice the way it goes from that yellow to that dark yellow. Looks really cool. Not to mention the number detailing on the front. I think looks really nice. Emulates a jersey really well. And there's gene printing on this fig, so that's pretty cool. Moving on, we got Donatello. The only real difference between him and the other Donatello I've talked about is the gap in his teeth and his wide expression. Obviously, the gap comes with the character, so he should have it, and he looks cool otherwise. Like, there's not much to say. The face print is pretty decent. Then we have Baxter Stockman, this freaking dweeb. No, but honestly, I really like aspects of this fig, especially the face print, which looks really cool. The big puffy mustache with the gray glasses, I think looks super nice, especially because the gray glasses are silver. That's just a cool little print to have. I think the torso's okay. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. It looks really weird. I know they're interpreting a weird looking character from the show. Let me just say right now, this show had some weird looking humans. They could not animate humans or draw them for shit, to be honest, in that style. So you get kind of these suspenders with this kind of pink backdrop with these like football pads on, and they kind of emphasize that with the top little shoulder pad, which looks pretty good in my opinion. Actually, it bounces up with the helmet really cool to keep that cool silver pattern, but it doesn't really go on anywhere else in the fig. It's a pretty decent fig. There's also a little Mouser build here, which I guess I'll talk about with the minifigs because that's how it's categorized on Brickset. It's interesting to say the least. I don't mind the techniques they tried with the bicycle helmet on the front or the legs being made out of those little metal arms, if you know what I'm talking about. But otherwise than that, I just don't see them looking that good in my opinion. We move on to the builds. There are 2 little vehicle builds builds in this set, neither of which I think are too special, though I will say the little plain makeshift one is decent in my opinion. I wish they tiled off the top of the wing a little better. It just looks so weird with so many exposed studs. I don't know though. I do think the deep pocket for the real cockpit looks kind of cool in my opinion. I like the little raised back. It's a little fun. And the little car build's decent. There really isn't anything to say about it. It has a little hook on the back. Obviously the hook is there to hold skateboard, which is okay. You know, nice little interaction. Then we move on to the big build of the set, which is Baxter Stockman's robot. Now there are some really cool elements to this robot. For example, the cockpit area is really cool. The way that it fits right into the robot, I think that looks awesome. And the way the sticker detailing on the outside kind of makes it fit in instead of it being that one transparent piece, that looks really cool. There are also two play features involving the hands, including one of them being a flick fire kind of missile out of the right side, and out of the left side the hand shoots out with a little rope attached to it so you could bring it right back to catch, say, April, who I'm assuming is who they want you to catch in this set. It also moves 360 on the axis, which is pretty cool. Honestly, it's strange but cool. Now my main gripe with this mech in general is I just don't really like the look, to be honest. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't really like a sharp edged mech. I prefer it to be kind of smoothed out and rounded as much as possible, and here they really don't do that. It feels like they kind of tiled off the set with these big obligatory parts when they really could have used maybe smaller parts to help make it a little more round and tiled off. I don't even really mind the exposed holes on the feet too much, to be honest, because they aren't that much of a distraction for me, but they are there nonetheless. I think it's an alright mech build. I think it's a pretty good set in general though. Up next on the ranking is at 79100 Krang Lab Escape. Now, something you're going to realize about this theme is the $10 price range sets seem to stack up really good against other sets in this theme, especially in the mid price ranges where a lot of those rank lower. Now, this set comes with two good minifigs and two really good builds in my opinion. Now, there's only one fig to talk about for this set, which is the Michelangelo, who I think is fantastic. Now, the best part about this fig is the facial expression in my opinion. I think it fits his character super well, and the way they interpret it in Lego looks really nice. It's kind of the same with all these turtles. They have such unique, distinct expressions, which makes sense because it's based off a TV show where they do that a lot, really. Remember, made for kids and all, you know, but still, the smile is super nice. I really love the non-symmetrical way that it's lined up in the mouth.
What?
The teeth, it looks super interesting. Of course, all the shell detailing is great. He's also a lighter green than I believe all of the other turtles, if not most of them, which is a cool little detail. Now we move on to the two builds of the set, which I think are both solid. I know maybe not everyone will like the cell area, the kind of capture zone for Michelangelo, where you can put him in and then use this play feature in the back to flick him out. I honestly, personally kind of like it. I really like the technique they use to make the kind of laser feel at the front with those little pole parts. Now, sure, maybe the computer part and the lever are a little low, but otherwise than that, I don't really mind it that much. There's also some little hooks to hold the nunchucks. Isn't that's cool? Yeah, that's badass, kid. Then there's the actual Krang UFO ship itself. I can't say Krang without thinking about low tier god, calling fucking RIP Broly legs, RIP Broly legs. I'm calling Broly legs Krang. Holy shit. No, but the Krang UFO ship is pretty decent in my opinion. I really like the way it's rounded off actually with the tiles, unlike another build I talked about earlier, and it does have just enough space to fit the Krang in there. You can't really put a minifig in there at all. It would not fit. It has two little control panels at the top, two little odometers up there, which I think looks nice. The leg detailing is solid, and the little transparent like container on the end I think looks really cool. Canister. I also like the flick fire missiles here. They fit in really well, and I love the angle they're at. The set does come with the Krang part as well. The Krang part is really cool. It's really sick. It looks kind of creepy in my opinion, like the Krang should, you know? But his legs going really far out looks really cool, and the fact is he's just kind of really interesting looking piece. This is a really solid set overall. Up next on the ranking is set 79115 Turtle Van Takedown. This is a really good set with a pretty good build and some interesting minifigures. I'll start out with the Michelangelo, and as with all these turtles themed around the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, dog shit movie by the way, I saw it in theaters. I know, I'm not very bright. Now I feel like many Lego fans probably prefer these over the cartoon versions. I don't know why, that's just a stigma I think that's in my head. Now I don't understand it at all personally. I think the detailing looks super weird on these figs. Of course, the designs are based on a really weird movie. I will say they do look better than the actual designs from the movie. That's not saying much considering this is in Lego form. Like, I hope you can ascertain that I don't hate these figures. But there is some weird design detailing. Like, look at the top of his head. Like, literally, he has like liver spots or necrosis or something on the top of his head. It's super weird. Not to mention the face detailing is kind of strange in my opinion, the way it's printed out. It's like they put an actual human face on the turtle, and not in like a good way. It looks a little too realistic in my opinion. It's just not a good expression. I will say the torso and leg detailing and printing actually looks kind of sick. The shell piece, I don't think I'm as big a fan as the protruding one that goes over the top as much as I am with the other one. It's a decent fig. It's just my personal preferences don't make me like it as much. Then we have the Raphael, which... oof. He looks way worse than the Michelangelo. Holy shit. The way his skin and his bandana mesh together, he looks like uncooked liver. He looks really weird. If you prefer the Raphael bandana style where it's over his head, good for you. I don't really care for it, to be honest. I think they all look better when they're all the same style, but it doesn't really translate well to this fig because it's smaller than his bandana here, so it looks like he has like a little yarmulke on. Again, the torso and leg detailing is nice. I love the shell pattern they have here where it's going in and out with all those circles in. The legs also have like a cool little skirt print, which I think looks really cool. His face print is so fucking weird, dude. What is this guy doing? Has he been gooning all day? What is this? Honestly, just a really weird fig. We move on to the Vern figure, who is as basic as it gets. We got a dichotomy here. We have white plain toast, and we have the Vern Lego figure. Who's more basic? Honestly, it's the most basic torso, the most basic head print, the most basic hairstyle, and the most basic leg print ever. Because there is no fucking leg print. This is the most basic figure. It's all right for the character because the character looks like nothing. I mean, he's played by Will Arnett, who's kind of an average looking guy-ish, so it doesn't really matter. But like, do we really need the Lego Vern figure? I'm not mad that he's in the set. Don't get me wrong. That's fine. The more the merrier, you know? But still, it's just such an average nonsense fig. Then we got the Foot Soldier tactical gear. I actually kind of really like this fig, to be honest. He has a lot of really good detailing. The balaclava print on the head looks sick in my opinion, especially with the two lines at the top and the bags around the eyes. That's some really cool extra detailing they added. He also has some cool torso detailing, especially with all the bullet print stuff. And Kathia, I believe it or not, this is crazy. Lego, I thought we stood away from religious and war stuff. I don't know, man. I'm not even gonna comment on that. What the fuck was going on with this movie if they had the foot soldiers being, you know, what the fuck? There's also some cool leg printing with the knee pads and, you know, the pocket printing. That's nice. The belt looks cool too. It's a solid fig. We move on to the builds, which I'm a little mixed on. We'll start out with this little stretcher type deal over here. You can kidnap Michelangelo, you know, capture him to make him hostage bait, whatever. It's a whatever build, really. It's kind of just nothing. The arms with the little nubs on the end, the little rounded parts in the end, I think is cool, but that's about it for it. Moving on to the gate area, I mean, I like parts of it. I like the little watchtower area using that truss piece. I think that looks really cool. I think the fence itself is built pretty nice in my opinion. The issue is it's just kind of a nonsense side build when you really think about it. You know, it's kind of what they do with all these sets. They add a little filler build to make the price a little higher. I think this one looks pretty decent. I even like the sticker detailing on here. I think that's really nice. That's something they did really well in these sets. The sticker detailing is very consistent, which I think is cool. The little canister on the side is cool too. I think it's a decent build, but it's just really filler, to be honest. Then we move on to the Turtle Van build, which I'm actually kind of a fan of, to be honest. Now, it does look a little chody, I guess. What the fuck am I saying? No, I like that the van's really consistent with this color design with that dark military green and that yellow. I think those colors bounce off each other really well. I always like this military green, olive green color, personally. I think it looks really cool, and I don't think it's used enough in Lego. Around 2014, they use it a lot, though. I'm thinking of that Captain America tank set specifically. The van, overall, in my opinion, is just built really nice. It's tiled off super well. The doors on the side work really well. The wheels are proportionately not horrendously big, in my opinion. I think they're pretty decent size. Now, the front with the ladder, I think, is kind of a okay, weird detail, in my opinion. It's not needed, but, like, it's okay. I don't mind the way the windshields or the hoods are in. I think they look nice. The satellite on the top with the two flick fire missiles, I think those look nice. In fact, I think the red pops off here is super nice as well. I gotta say, the interior is a little bare. I get that. I don't mind it, however. I'm a sucker for Lego builds that have room for a lot of minifigs. It's just always been a thing I like. And I don't really think the van needed to be too much, you know, in-depth interior. It's a smaller build. Overall, I think it's a solid set, like a really good set. It just has some really interesting aspects. Up Up next on the ranking is set 79119, Mutation Chamber Unleashed. Now, this set has a fantastic minifig selection with a pretty decent build in my opinion. Starting out with said minifigs, we're going to start out with the Raphael. Now, this Raphael is different from the other version that I've talked about in the fact that he has armor and it looks really nice. When you look at the legs and torso, the way the armor intertwines looks really sick. Not to mention this kind of sheet metal look it is, this kind of scrappy look with all the weird miscolored plates and stuff all around. With keeping the little belt detail in the middle of the torso, kind of keeping it consistent with the other Raphael figs, I think that looks super nice. I also think the way it integrates into the headpiece looks really good. Now, maybe you think he should have had some arm printing, which is, you know, an all right little critique in my opinion. I don't think it looks that crazy here. Maybe a metal shell would have been cool, but overall, I think it's a really good fig. Then we have the Victor figure, which I think looks really cool. I know it's kind of a basic fig, but it really didn't need to be that much in the first place anyway, so it really doesn't matter. I love the face print here. It's so weirdly expressive for a kind of basic character with this disgusted look. It's such a cool look. It's something we don't really get in LEGO that often. The torso is also really cool as well. He has this wife beater on with these stains on it, his moves. It's really detailed and it's really nice, honestly. I mean, maybe gene printing would have been cool or whatever, but it doesn't matter, to be honest. The fig's really solid. Next, we have Spider Bites, who I guess we can count as a fig. We'll classify him as that. Yeah, why not? Brickset does it. Why shouldn't I? Honestly, he's really cool. The anatomy they made him at, this teardrop anatomy, I think is awesome. It's how he looks in the show and it's how he should look. I also love the 4 spider legs coming out the top. That's a really cool way to do that antenna detailing. The printing on him looks really cool. I love the spider eyes himself, and the large teeth in the mouth look really great. It kind of gives a good perspective with the way it's rounded with how big the fig actually is. And the arms are pretty cool too. He looks like he wobble around a little bit with those weird little T-Rex arms. It's a cool fig, honestly. It's kind of a good precursor to like the Jurassic World dinosaurs when you think about it. There is only one build of the set, which is the mutation chamber itself, and I'm gonna be honest, this might be weird for me to say. I like this build. Sure, it looks a little all over the place and a little goofy, especially with the color scheme, but I think that's what I like about it, to be honest. It's very eccentric. The colors just pop so well. I love the way that this magenta works into this translucent gray, works into this dark blue, works into this gray, all of these grays. I think it all looks really nice. I love the weird detailing of like the shocks at the top, put on like these kind of lightning rod Teslas. I think those are really cool. I like the lab detailing on the side with the computers. I think that's really cool, and I think that adds another effect to the set. There's also an interesting play feature where you spin this part at the top. It'll use as a kind of a swinging door effect and put ant bites in the mutagen chamber, which I think looks really cool. It's kind of a cool little detail to have in a, you know, $20 United States set. What are we getting for 20 bucks now? Fucking nothing. I also think the sticker detailing on the outside of the chamber looks really cool. It kind of reminds me a lot of Jokerland with that sticker detailing. Obviously, that one's a little more in depth here. This is just some bubbles and shit, you know, but I think it looks good. I think this set is good overall, to be honest. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 79121, Turtle Sub Undersea Chase. Now, this is overall a really good set. I think the minifig selection is the best part of it, and I think the main build's pretty good. But we'll get into that. Starting with the minifigs. For the 5 minifigs, I'm going to start out with the Donatello and his scuba gear. This is a really solid fig in my opinion. Of course, like all the other turtles, he has the turtle detailing, but the scuba printing on here is really nice. On the face, it looks cool with his scuba mask, and the torso is really nice. So this tube detailing, the way the colors pop off with that silver and that dark brown, you know, kind of contrasting really nice. I also love this kind of pressure odometer type thing in the bottom right hand corner. I think that looks really nice. Overall, a solid fig. Then we have the Leonardo in scuba gear, who I think looks even better. Now, his face, maybe not as much, to be honest. The mask looks a little weird and protruding here, but the torso and leg printing looks so nice here. Now, on his leg, of course, for the knee braces, he has kind of a different, more metal silver texture, which I think looks really nice. And his torso, I think, has better detailing than Donatello's. I think the air tank / valve in the center is a really cool detail, not to mention the 2 pipes leading up to the center. I think that just looks a lot better. It's a lot less disorganized than Donatello's, which I don't mind, to be honest, but here I think it looks a little more natural and just a little better. Not to mention the air canisters being blue, fitting in with that mask. I think that's just really cool in my opinion. It's a great fig. The next figure to talk about is Leatherhead, and man, do I like this fig. Obviously not a traditional Lego figure otherwise than, you know, the legs, which do look slightly baffling with the way that the plastic gleams compared to the rest of his body, but his body part is so good. It's such a detailed mold. I really love the way it looks. I love the way that that the crocodile head fits into it. I love the long arms with the bladed shoulders. That all looks fantastic. I also like the wraps all around. I think those add a little bit of detail. The leg printing's cool with the little nails on the end. Honestly, when I was a kid, when I was so Batman brained, I still am, but still, when I was so Batman brained, this was one of the ways I thought I could get a Killer Croc figure, because getting a Killer Croc figure in 2014 was like winning the lottery, because the only one you could get was 2006, and he was probably like 60 bucks back in the day, I feel like. But I love this leather head for what it is. Obviously, it's great based off the character. The character is a fucking big crocodile. What do you want him to do? The way that they just made it is super nice. Then we have a slightly different Krang figure from the other one I talked about. Now, I kind of rate this Krang maybe a little lower than the other one. I kind of like the other one a little more, to be honest. I like the blue on the other one. Here, there is no blue. It's just kind of straight gray, which is okay, you know. It's still decent detailing with the leg and torso printing and the little Krang in the middle. I think that still looks really cool. The head print's also nice, being robotic and whatnot. I just like the blue a little more. Otherwise than that, it's not really much different. Now it's time to move on to the builds. I guess we could start out with this little Krang ship. It's a pretty decent build in my opinion. I love the way it kind of imitates the anatomy of a squid. I think that's pretty cool. I also think the purple and the translucent pink mixed with this other pink all around looks really nice. The way it pops off is really sick. And the sticker detailing is cool as well, especially with these two on the front two panels. I think that looks great and puts a nice pattern on there. It's a solid build. Now moving on to the turtle sub itself, while I have a couple of issues, I overall still really like this build. Now when it comes to my issues with this build, they all kind of stem from the exterior of this build. It just has some detail issues that are really odd looking. When you look at the front of the build, the head, because it is based off a turtle, obviously, it has this weird thing where it kind of just tails off at the end. I know this was 2014 and the tiling wasn't what it's like now. It's crazy because otherwise than that, I think the head looks good, especially with the two eyes being those translucent green parts that are used as windshields. I think that's a cool detail. I mean, it's impractical, but what the fuck does that matter? I guess my other little problem with the build are the little fins, flippers that he has on the side. They look just really bad in my opinion. It would have been much nicer if they used a more rounded part here. I don't get why it's so jagged and, you know, triangular when really they could have used that rounded part that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. I'll put a picture in the video. And like, what was even the point of putting these two tiles on these? Come on, guys. It's a cool little play feature how you can move them around. I like that, but the two tiles just look stupid in my opinion. The rest of the turtles actually really good though. Like, I love what they did with the car hood pieces here. It's the same thing we did with the turtle van. Combining these to make kind of the shell texture looks really cool. The way it goes up and down, especially what they do with the rounded tiling at the top as well. That adds that effect of like an actual turtle shell where it's uneven, you know, it's these weird patterns. It looks cool. I also quite enjoy the side. I don't think the gray here takes too much away from the build. I like where there's the window. I think the window print looks pretty cool in my opinion and is better than just not having a window at all when there is this interior that kind of needs to see outside. Also, the top with like the valve door is cool. I really wish it would actually open and show into the shell. It's kind of useless otherwise in detail purposes, which I think it looks good. And the little telescope thing, I keep forgetting what the fuck that thing's called, is a really good detail. Now, the interior all around is interesting. The cockpit area is okay. It can only fit one person really, but that's all it really needs to fit. So you can just put one of the turtles in there and have the other one in the back. And I think it's all right. It's just a seat, you know, not much. The rest of the interior, however, I think is super nice. You have room for the 3 other turtles. You have a cool little console area in the center, which looks really nice, especially with these computer parts. And there's also a back section where a kind of little hold-on jet ski type thing. Leonardo in this picture kind of just grabs it out and, you know, flies through the water or whatever. I think that's a really cool detail. I love it when we get other attached vehicles to an already established bigger vehicle. That's really cool. It reminds me of a lot of the bat boats we've gotten before. Overall, it's a sick build, and I think this is overall a great set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 79118 Karai Bike Escape. Now, maybe I am slightly biased because I did have this set as a kid, but I really love this set. It's almost unbeaten at its price range for the minifigs and the builds. So let's start out with the minifigs. The first minifig to talk about is this battle damaged Leonardo, and honestly, it's a great fig. Like all the turtles, it has all the great turtle elements, but unlike all the other turtles, he has some cool little battle elements, some scars here, some bruises, some cuts. It looks really cool. Honestly, battle damaged figs are a real delicacy we get. Also, the face expression is really cool with that very angry expression. I think it just looks really nice. It's overall a really solid fig. I also own this fig still. I still have it built, and it's cooked. It's class. Then we move on to the Karai, who I also think is a really good figure. I really love the torso and leg detailing here, especially with that, you know, kind of metal armor sheathing all around. I love the way it's paneled in over the printing, especially at the edge of the legs around the hips. I think it looks really cool. The purple wrap's also a cool detail around the middle. I'm I'm sorry, I don't know any D terms or anything, so I don't know what this would actually be called. Of course, with this fig, though, the head and hair print are probably the clear highlight for everybody, especially that hairpiece. That hairpiece is so nice. The fact is that it's dual molded, with one half being that blonde and the other half being that rubber black material that tops over. It works out super well, in my opinion. It's much better than just printing over a different color. It actually works here to distinguish textures, and it's just such a unique part. The head print also has some really cool detailing, especially with the makeup printing. I think that's really nice. Overall, the figure selection of the set is sick. We move on to the builds. There's some fire builds here. This newspaper stand is great. Listen, all respect to one of the greatest of all time. Rest in peace at 6858 Catwoman Cycle Chase. I love that set. I still have that set built. It's fantastic. This is the better version of that set, in my opinion. Now, true, while it may not have a stoplight and may be a little more incongruent, the fact is there's a motorcycle here, which I think is better than the one in that set, and there's a newspaper dispenser, which by far passes it. I'm sorry to all the people who are going to, hate me for that, but it's just the truth. The motorcycle's great. I love the sticker detailing on the side with that number and the little red lines. Also love the gun holster on the side using that 1x1 part. I think that looks really great. And in the front with this kind of extended headlight, I think that's fantastic and kind of a cool way to build it with just a couple of parts to make it look kind of tactical. I think that's awesome. I also love the dark translucent clear parts on the edge for the mirrors. I think that works out super well on a black bike instead of just using normal translucent. I also think red and black just looks super nice as a color combo here, especially with the wheels where, the rims are red and the tires are black. I think it all pops off super well. Not to mention the metallic gray base. Just looks cool. Overall, it's a really awesome bike build. The newspaper street side little build, I think is awesome. I love the way the street sign's built here, the way they use that Technic rod to get those two parts up top to hold on to the street signs. For anyone wondering, this takes place at Broadway and Beaker, so that is a real intersection in New York, so go over there. It's probably right by the Village. But I also really love the newspaper dispenser here. I think yellow is the perfect color to use here. I just think it pops off super well. There's also a really awesome play feature where you pull down on the street sign and all the newspapers go flying out. I think that's fantastic. That's one of the better play features we've gotten in this line. There's another play feature where you can put, Leonardo holding it while he's riding a skateboard, all battle damage. Shit, I don't really care about that, to be honest. That's just kind of whatever. His skateboard's kind of whatever too. It's just a skateboard part with a little sticker on it. That's really it. And there's a little traffic cone incendiary thing here. While not bad at all, I think it's actually kind of decent. The fact that it just adds on to the set a little bit, puts a little more, aesthetic to it, a little city aesthetic. I just don't really care about it at the end of the day. It's just an overall great set though. One of the best for the price points ever. I mean, this $10 to $15 range usually is very bare, so to get one as good as this in that range is fantastic. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 79122, Shredder's Lair Rescue. This is a fantastic set. I love the minifig selection, and I think it has a really awesome main build. The minifigs are a real interesting bunch here. I've already talked about the foot soldier itself, but there's also a tall foot soldier here, which is really interesting the way that they utilize this kind of Lord Garmadon torso to make him taller. I think it's really cool. It's kind of a funny thing to put in this set. I don't know, it just looks really weird. Also, the dark gray fits in really nice with the black. Overall, it's just a really solid fig. There are Raphael and Michelangelo figs. They are, however, pretty much the same. Otherwise, in their expression, Raphael has kind of this gridded face and Michelangelo has a smiling face. And they both look good. The expressions are great, but it's just not much else. They're really good figs. The last fig to talk about in this set is the Shredder. This Shredder is different from the other one in the color scheme, and that makes it awesome because the color scheme here is much better. Black and purple just looks fantastic. I just love the way it pops off the black. That's such a great color scheme when it's black and purple. I mean, this guy could be playing for the fucking Ravens right now. We got Lego Joe Flacco before we got GTA 6. Of course, all the armor detailing around is really nice. I think the leg printing here is really sick, the way that that silver pops off the black at the bottom. He has the other Shredder arbitrary parts, of course, the helmet and the shoulder pads. I think that all looks great, and I think this is overall a fantastic figure. We then move on to the builds. There are a couple of interesting small ones, including this little cannon where you can just put one of the foot soldiers on there and just flick him right off. Throw him out! No one wants to see him anymore. No, it's just one of those common play features, kind of catapult one where you just push down on the end. It's whatever, it's average. There's also this turtle flying machine plane thingy. I don't know what it's called, and it's not a great build, and that's putting it nicely. It looks really stupid in my opinion. I don't even hate the build. It just feels like filler, and it kind of feels like a mishmash of colors and patterns all in it. I mean, the tiling's decent, and the sticker detailing's decent. I get that this is more of that scrapyard look you get from this turtle wave, but it doesn't look good. Then you got the main build of the set, the Shredder layer itself, and I think this is a phenomenal build. When you just go bare bones and look at the structure of it itself. It reminds me so much of a lot of early Ninjago and Chima sets, and as someone who on the record is not a fan of Ninjago, especially because the Ninjago fans are fucking annoying, I gotta admit that's a good trait because the way this is built is objectively great. The tier structuring system I think is really cool to have this tier below it with all this caged off exterior, and then the tier above it where the actual throne is, especially with the staircase in the middle kind of centering it off. I think that looks awesome. Also with the staircase, I have to mention an amazing play feature where you pull the stairs out and they all kind of collapse, and then they have a missile chute right behind it. I think that's phenomenal. That's such a cool play feature. And for the little areas below, you could add these little weapon racks. I think that works super well instead of having dead space, even though I'm kind of a weird fan of dead space, especially when it's below something. I think it looks kind of cool. It reminds me of the dynamic duo funhouse chase and that dead space. The throne area is also really cool. I like the chair itself. Sure, while it may not be grandiose or anything, I think the way it's built is really cool, especially with the tiling they use in that little part they use for the bottom. Looks really nice in my opinion. I also like the backdrop with these tinted windows next to these two Foot Clan flags with the insignia on the middle. I think that looks awesome. Also the pointed off top with kind of this stained glass mosaic look with the way they intertwine the translucent parts looks great. There's also a super fun play feature where you can open the two tinted doors in the back and it kind of just lets the throne fly off. I mean, it's stupid, like really stupid, but it's so cool to have these two doors open up like that, just being tiled off. I love that in a Lego set. Little features like that are awesome. And overall, this is an awesome set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. Up next on the ranking is set 79116 Big Rig Snow Getaway. This is a fantastic set with some really incredible builds and a pretty cool fig selection. With the figs, we're going to start out with the Leonardo. It's just disgusting the way that this design is. That olive green does not fit well for the skin tones. Again, the printing all around with the leg detailing and the torso detailing is actually really cool. It kind of gives off this old ancient like tie-ish aesthetic. The red shell in the back is a weird choice in my opinion. I don't get why they went with that. I mean, it's orangish red, but still, I would prefer it if they went with a darker color. And the blue being super light here just looks so weird to me. I mean, you want it to pop off the green, but the fact that you go even lighter than the green to pop it off just doesn't fit right, in my opinion. The fig just looks off. Now, we also have a Raphael here who's only slightly different from the other one with his face and his shell having a bit of duct tape on it. I mean, the duct tape's a decent detail, I guess, but the face print I prefer. It just fits his character better. It makes sense. The next fig to talk about is the April O'Neil, a much different version of the character than the other one I've talked about. Obviously older, played by Megan Fox, completely different. I actually think this fig has some really solid detailing though. I think the hairpiece looks really nice the way that it's molded, especially in that dark red color. I think looks legit. I also think the torso is fantastic. I love the way that that dark yellow pops, especially with the dark margins on the side. That just helps it out a lot. I also love the hoodie detail it gives with the zipper and the little shirt in the middle. I think that looks awesome. I also think the face print's pretty good. I mean, it's down to detail with the, you know, kind of wrinkle edge on the side, dimple on the side with the pink lipstick. I think it all just kind of pops super well, and it's not mismatched at all. It's just perfectly fine and a pretty good fig. Then we have the Karai fig, and again, Lego, can we not do this right now? No, but seriously, this is definitely a downgrade from the other Karai. I mean, just looking at the hairpiece alone, I literally mentioned this in the other segment that it would be a downgrade if they just did a color on one to another instead of dual molding, and that's what they did here. So the hairpiece is definitely a downgrade. Face print's pretty good though. The dimples on the side, I think that looks super nice and kind of gives a good definition for a female face. I've always liked that on figs. I mean, I like the 2012 Black Widow, for God's sake. I feel like a fucking Satanist saying it. The torso and leg detailing's okay. Again, I'm not talking about this, but obviously purple works off black super well, and it's a decent fig. Then we have the two foot soldiers of the set. Now, the main difference between these and the other ones is the face itself, and it looks really weird. It's apparently face gear. I don't believe that. It looks strange, to be honest. It looks really, really weird. The torso and leg printing's all the same. Tactical gear, of course, all looks fantastic. They're solid figs, otherwise than the head itself, which is just scary. Now we move on to the real highlight of the set, which are the two builds. We got a van and we got a truck. I'm going to start out by talking about Karai and the foot soldiers van over here, which the detailing is phenomenal. My favorite part about this van, believe it or not, is the tiling, especially on that front end, the way they round it off. It just looks fantastic and actually ultra realistic, to be honest. Lego really isn't known for making a lot of builds in this type style, as SUV style, and whenever they do, it always looks really nice. And this one, in my opinion, is actually fantastic. I love the grill. I love the cool play feature where it folds open and then there's a cannon in the back for Karai to shoot out of. I think that's very involved and very awesome. I also just think the black and red pops off super nice, of course. I always got to talk about the colors because they just look great in my opinion. It reminds me a lot of the Homecoming van, just in a darker color. The other build of the set to talk about is the big rig itself, which is fantastic and has so many cool features. First off, Lego being lore accurate with a cab and the back actually detaching from each other is pretty cool in my opinion. It's just a fun play feature. I also just think the cab itself looks awesome, the way that they double layer the tiling on top to make it really rounded. I think that's phenomenal. Also some great sticker detailing on the outside along with the smooth gray and red exterior, which I think looks really good for a big rig. Now the best part about this whole vehicle is the interior area where it's a lab. The area looks really clean with all the translucent blue detailing. The computer desk looks really nice. I love the way it's built, especially the way it's rounded on the end. Also an awesome sticker showing the evolution of the turtle. That's just fantastic. There's also room for you to put weapons on the door side, which I think looks really cool. There's also some science equipment on the end where you have this gem kind of getting inspected by a couple of different other things, which is, you know, nice little filler area thing to do, not just have it be blank space. The one last thing to talk about with this truck build is the cool play feature kind of on the front where you could flick up this lever and it shoots out a couple of these mutagen canisters, which I think is great in my opinion. I love the way that that works. I always like involved play features, especially when they fit in so well to the build like this one does. Overall, this is a fantastic set. Let's move on to the next set on the ranking. In the runner-up spot on the ranking, I have set 79103, Turtle Layer Attack. Now, this is the second of two sets that I actually have owned and do own right now. I actually have it built right now, and I love this set. This set's fantastic. We got a couple of great figs to talk about. I'm going to start out by talking about the Raphael and the Leonardo. Now, of course, I'm bunching these together because they are just the same thing as the other ones, just with different facial expressions, and both look really good. The angry Raphael, I think, is really interesting. It reminds me a lot of the Lord of the Rings printing with the exaggerated angry faces. I think that looks clean. The Leo Fig's expression's also good. It's not really much to say. It's just kind of an angry frown, but it looks pretty decent. Then we have the Splinter figure, who I think is fantastic. Whether it's his garb or his head mold, I think everything about him is perfect. When you look at the head mold, otherwise in the shape, one of the most fantastic things about it is the coloration and printing on it. We have the white beard, obviously, with the little goatee thing hanging off, which I think is a really sick detail. The way the black and white interludes all throughout also looks nice, and with the red eyes, I think it all just pops off super well. And the molding is fantastic, of course, with those ears in the back. I think it all looks great. The garb's really cool as well, especially with the 3 asterisk stars kind of on the bottom. I'm sure they're meant to be ninja stars and asterisks, of course. Also think the robe detailing looks really nice, especially with the little layers and stitching they put on it. It's a really good fig. Then we move on to the Dark Ninja, who is also fantastic. I think my favorite part of this fig, oddly enough, is the face print. It has this hypnotic state where the eyes are perfectly white and he's just has an angry bearded face. I think it looks really sick, kind of a thing we don't get in Lego all the time, and that just makes it stand out. The torso and leg detailing, of course, is great. Some really cool folded over garb detailing, which I think looks really nice, as well as the brown mixing with the dark red really well. Overall, it's a really solid fig. When we move on to the build of the set, it really is one big one that I can separate into 2 different segments. There's the tall tower and there's the short area, which is a training zone. There are a lot of cool little details. I'm glad they incorporated the tree actually into this area. Of course, that's actually in the layer in the show. The dummy itself, I also think looks really clean. Of course, it's meant to mock the dummy in the show, and I think it looks pretty nice. The spin play feature works pretty well too, where you can spin and 2 of the figures on the side train next to each other is really cool and interactive. I also just love a lot of the wall detailing and exterior stuff. The arcs themselves look really nice above that lead to these pillars. I think that's really cool. And the wall detailing itself with these masonry brick with all this uneven layering and these kind of cages, these 4x3x1s, I think it all fits in to make a really cool training area. You move on to the main area of the build itself. There are just a lot of fun details here, like the pizza oven on the second floor next to the skateboard rack, which I think is really cool. The pizza oven's also a cannon, which is a really fun play feature. And you have on the first floor a whiteboard with some prototype designs, probably written by Donatello, next to a shelf with some science stuff and a computer desk area. There's also a street level. I think this is awesome and very interactive, especially with the trapdoor feature. I'm a sucker for trapdoor features. You put them in a set, I'm probably going to like them, and it's the same thing here, especially with the NYC sewer sticker at the top. The sticker detailing is sick in this set, in my opinion. I love that Mutant Rule sticker a lot. I like a lot of the ones on these panels, especially all this sewer detailing. I think that all looks really nice. There's also a hook that kind of Leonardo can hang off of in the box art. It's an interesting feature to do, like, I guess, skateboard tricks off with the turtles. It doesn't take away from the set. Actually, it's kind of interesting. It leads to more dimensions, so I don't mind it too much. There are a couple little side build areas. There's the TV area with the 4 seats for the turtles, which as a kid, I thought was fucking awesome because I didn't have all 4 turtles. I only had 2 of them. But if I did, I'm sure I would have loved to just put them all sitting next to each other over here on these color-coded tiles. And the TV sticker is sick. There's also a skateboard ramp, which I think is built super nicely and really sturdy, actually. That 4-length bar at the top gives you the area to pose figures as well. I think that's really interactive and cool. There's also a catapult build, which is, I don't know, decent. You know, it's just another catapult play feature. They seem to like those a lot in this theme. I really love this set. Overall, it's a fantastic set, but it's not number 1. Let's go to number 1 on the ranking. In first place is set 79117, Turtle Lair Invasion. This is the other version of the Turtle Lair we got. This one's based off the 2014 movie, and I think this one slightly edges out the other set. The set has 6 minifigs and only 4 for us to talk about. I'll start out with both the turtles. Now, the Leonardo's pretty much the exact same from the other one, just with the more angry face. You know, still looks disgusting as ever. There's also the Donatello, and I want to say one really cool aspect of this figure is actually the goggle part. I think that's really awesome. I'm glad that they have it here. It kind of adds on to the character, unlike the other Donatello where you can't really do much with him. I also like the stud on the shell where they build off this switch. I think that's a really cool detail. Otherwise than that, though, he has the same issue I have with the other turtles, which is just the look itself. I mean, the torso and leg printing itself isn't terrible. It's stylistically weird, especially the bottom half, you know, those kind of Samoan dress like looking thing. I like the torso with the suspenders with all tactical gear. I think that looks cool. But nah, you're not catching me praising this fig that much. It does not look good. None of these turtles look good. Then we have the Splinter, who, yeah, is definitely worse from the other version, but still isn't a bad fig at all. In particular, I think the head mold is really cool. I like the gray color. I like the aspects it shares with the other Splinter, with the little goatee in the front, little beard thing, and the ears. I think those look nice, not to mention the print on the top looking fantastic. And his torso is really cool. I think the scarf and necklace detailing looks really nice, not to mention the jacket detailing is really nice, especially with the 2 buttons on the side. Overall, it's a solid fig. Then we move on to the Shredder. Now, while maybe not my favorite design of the character, the way that it's utilized in Lego is actually really awesome. I love a lot about it. I really love the metal detailing all around, especially on those torso and legs. Ooh, that sheathing up and down looks really clean. The helmet and shoulder pads are also awesome and actually kind of better than the other one, to be honest. First off, the helmet has a cool print on the front, which is nice to see. Just some nice little added detail. And the shoulder pads have 2 spikes on the end, which look really cool. They're more out of nowhere compared to the other one. I actually probably do prefer the other one. But the piece itself is really cool, not to mention the way that it's shaped towards the middle, where it kind of cuts out for a second and has these little patterns. I think it all looks really good. We move on to the build of the set, which is a fantastic turtle lair. The first part of the lair I'm going to talk about is this cage area, the smallest area, and I think it's really nice. It has a cool play feature where the cage kind of drops down, which is a sick play feature. It also has an area where you can put some weapons back here. It's kind of a pop out. There's also a cool play feature at the bottom where all you have to do is push out this little panel and it pulls out a dagger, which I think is awesome in my opinion. That's really cool. I love hidden stuff in Lego sets. The graffiti detailing on the side's also a nice little touch. Obviously, we're in a sewer, so it only makes sense and builds onto the aesthetic of the set. Overall, it's a solid area. When you move to the middle tower over here across this little walkway, of course, very cool. Reminds me a lot of a bat cave. The top layer of this second tower has a really cool play feature where if you open up this door that looks like a safe, there's a barrel loaded feature where you can just flick it down and it'll hit an enemy on the lower level, which is awesome. Now, the training dummy is definitely a downgrade. I mean, it's not even a dummy. It's literally a pad with a sticker, so, you know, whoop-de-woo. There's also a big fan in the back, which just looks a little odd to me, in my opinion. I mean, it kind of slightly aesthetically makes sense, but for me, it just seems odd to put in here. It feels like filler. It's a play feature that kind of flings out if you push down on a lever. I don't know. Not the biggest fan of this play feature, to be honest. Kind of just feels like a waste of space. It's still a really awesome area, though. You move on to the third largest tower itself. First off, props for the nice looking stairs at the front. Always a fan. I also like the color they chose here. The computer area is really cool. Obviously reminds me a lot of a back computer, you know, Batman brain and all. The paneling here is really nice, though. I love the overhead panels, and I love all the stickers themselves being these colors of pinkish, yellowish, greenish. I think all the colors pop off super well. Also, some little extra pizzas on the floor, some gas tanks. You know, we're in a sewer and we're the fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja fucking Turtles. Gonna skip the middle layer for a second to talk about the top layer, where there's kind of this winding door entrance, and from there you get on these slides. Now, the slides have a really cool play feature. They wrap all around the tower, where you could put down this cage door door and lock someone in this cell. This is obviously, of course, used for the foot soldiers when they're trying to invade the lair. Now, me personally, I don't think slides are the right choice here. I prefer staircases. Obviously, you can't have the play feature or the interactivity with those. I don't mind the slides too much, though. This is obviously made for fucking kids, for God's sake. And that jail cell feature is really cool, if we're being honest here. The way it drops down and just locks them in. I love that. That's fucking fantastic. Overall, this is a phenomenal set, and it's a part of a phenomenal theme. And I want to thank you all for watching. This was a pain to make. It feels like Groundhog Day making these sometimes. You do a voiceover, then you just edit it all. But hey, it's a sacrifice I make to get my terrible opinions out there for all of you, because all you suckers watch them. Haha. Nah, I'm just kidding. Have a good one.